Morning, campers. I want to share today about tolerating bullying and abuse, and tolerating abuse of men and also of women, actually. But I was just thinking about my current situation and the Graham Johnson thing, and being in the newspapers yesterday, the Daily Mail, the Telegraph, and the Times, and being alongside Graham Johnson in it, and he was called a phone hacker. He wasn't, no journalist, no, nothing like that. More phone hacker, and I thought this is karma. Not in a bad way, but I had told him for a long time. He had basically tried to almost like go to my linen basket, search around, find some smelly underpants, and walk up and down the village ringing a bell, shouting, "Smelly underpants, smelly underpants." And it's like, you didn't find any smelly underpants in my linen basket. They're the smelly underpants of your imagination. And for a long time, he's been out there publicly saying that about me. And it hasn't even been true. And I've tolerated it. And I just thought reading that, where they basically said phone hacker, they just called him a phone hacker, and it's like, I thought that's karma. It's just total, utter karma, because he's been doing that to me. And I thought, now, how will he feel about that? Because it's not right. And we do use it against people, like, because we all know there's a Google search bar, and it's like, oh, now when someone puts in Graham Johnson, up will come phone hacker, up will come criminal, which is what they called him. But he's been doing that to me for the last 7 years. And I warned him, and I told him, and I said, you can get away with that because I've not lawyered up. I'm not middle class. But spiritually, it will backfire. Spiritually, what you do to me will come back at you. And he didn't listen, he didn't care. And now it's happened to him. And I actually feel sorry for him, really. What he doesn't also realize is he's in the winter of his life, okay? Soon, and it might be sooner than he thinks, he will shed that body and go into spirit. Now, in spirit, you're judged completely by what you've done. It won't be about, oh, are you friends with powerful people? Are you friends with Hugh Grant? But it doesn't, spirit, they don't care about who's famous in the physical. They don't care about who's got the most money in the physical. They don't care about who's got status and prestige in the physical. They just look at your spirit, and they just see your spirit. And is it dirty? Is it black? Or is it opaque and clean? Or is it blue? Is it tinged blue? Have you been helping other people? Or is it golden? Have you been showering other people with love, caring, helping, enlightening, making the world a better place? And actually, Graham, you haven't been doing that. You've been feathering your own nest. You've been feathering your own nest with famous people. You've been feathering your own nest with your status. And what the newspapers did yesterday was undermine you, was shout you out and say, phone hacker, phone hacker. I mean, and what you've done, you've brought that on yourself completely. You did totally victimize me and call me a names of something I didn't do, okay? Even though I had been cooperating with you, sitting down with you, breaking bread with you. And let me tell you about something. Now, listen, I've known, and I didn't mean this to be a blog attending to Graham, but I've known for a long time that you take me over dinner, even back in 2016. And, firstly, I was told it. Sylvia Jones said to me, he's taping every word. And so I started taping you. And then I sort of taping Evan as well. And then as the years passed, I sort of got sick of doing that. But I certainly taped the BBC. They thought they searched me. No, 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 just handbag lining, darlings. Anyway, so they, I don't, I don't, as a form, take people over dinner. Now, you don't invite people to dinner, and as you're breaking bread with them, which is almost a sacred thing, you don't try and blag them or tape them or con them into saying something, and you don't do that. I mean, I've had fun with it. I've, you know, said things just to get you excited and just watched you. And you always tap your overcoat when you think, why do you do that? It's like silly. And then, excuse me, why do you do that? And it's wrong in spirit because you're breaking bread with someone. Do you see? When you're breaking bread with them, you don't try and fuck someone. I can't think of a better word. You don't try and fuck someone as you break bread with them. It's wrong on so many levels. Think of the Last Supper. Maybe you will get the hint of how it's wrong. So, and also to go against blagging in the media when you are blagging others. I mean, the book on Gavin Burrows wasn't ever going to be, was it? It was just to get an affidavit for, you know, for this court case versus the Mail. I don't know whether he ever even worked for the Mail. It keeps saying, and it said in the Times yesterday, he's saying he was never commissioned by them ever. So, and I've known for a long time that you were after the Mail because you told me that, you know, Hugh Grant wanted to destroy the Mail. I mean, I don't know. I can understand Hugh Grant doesn't like the Mail because what? Actually, wasn't that the News of the World that did all that stuff back, excuse me, back in the day on Hugh Grant? I don't know what he's got against the Mail, but, you know, people sometimes hate people, yada, yada. I understand that, but maybe it's not, for someone who's been so blessed as Hugh Grant, maybe it's not a good thing to want to destroy anything. Maybe it's a good time to look back on his life and think, wow, haven't I been blessed? I've been blessed with love. I've been blessed with friendship. I've been blessed with children. I've been blessed. I'm a movie star. I've had a great experience. I've been so blessed. And God, if I do hate this person or want to destroy that person or that, you know, is it a good fight for me? Is it the right fight? Do I want this? And if it is, I'm sure God will guide him. But I don't feel there's been any prayer around this. I don't. So because isn't it more honest to come forward and ask people, do they want to be part of a court case? Sometimes people don't. And I didn't wake up to this because I was too busy. I don't know, what was I busy doing? I don't know. I mean, what was I busy thinking? It's strange. I guess I like going to dinner in the Ivy is the bottom line of why are you getting involved here? And or because it's like, do you want to come to dinner at the Ivy and talk about this? Oh, hell yeah. Because, you know, I haven't been able to afford to go out and I can't, yeah, I just can't afford to go out. And then if someone says, do you want to go out? You're like, okay. And so I guess that is the bottom line. I just want to go and sit in the Ivy. I can be judged as sad because of that, but I don't know. I've experienced being poor and things like that. Being poor, you can really feel, I don't know, it does get you in touch with spirit because you haven't got anything else and you realize that your own brain has got you to the bottom of a ditch. It makes you turn to God and you're like, please God help me because I'm unworthy and I'm unable. And it's actually a good place to be, because if you are really thriving, sometimes you don't even pray. You're like, look at me, I'm a god. Take Evan Harris. Evan Harris, I know he never prays. I mean, he might. I know he had a girlfriend that died of cancer. I can bet he prayed then. Maybe that turned him away from God. But I know that he believes he's got where he has through his own abilities. And all of us, where we've got in life is because of God. And so God has to be engaged with. And often it's only those who are struggling that do get themselves involved with God. So going back to, I don't feel very well at the moment, so I'm all over the place with what I was trying to say. Going back to the books, so it is a treat. You know, when you're poor, you can go months, years without holiday, without going to a restaurant, and without buying new clothes. And, you know, Graham Johnson came along, you know, do you want a new suit to appear in an interview with the BBC? And it's not Tesco new suit, it was from Joseph. And did I want that? Well, I hadn't had that in years and years. And so it's seductive, especially a man buying it for you. It's seductive. Do I want to feel like a normal human being? A man buying me a suit, like, you know, most women are out there taking it, excuse me, for granted. For granted, you know, get it every Saturday. It doesn't really mean anything when you get it all the time. When you've gone years and years and you haven't had that, it's like Christmas. You're like a kid at Christmas. I remember going to buy that suit. I was so excited. I didn't have a car, took the bus, went into town, walked around Joseph. It's a boutique, by the way, in Richmond, and felt normal for once, felt human. Being poor is, you don't feel like you're a human being. It puts you in touch with spirit, because the world becomes very, very grey, because you can't ever treat yourself or get yourself anything nice or luxury. So you're on basics, cutting back. And yeah, you can't buy joy. You can't buy happiness. And you can buy happiness. I mean, people that say you can't buy happiness as they jet off to the Caribbean or buy a Jemima Khan designer dress. Well, you can. And when you're poor, you can't. And so you do feel it. And so, yeah, they were like, you know, I felt like a human being. You don't feel human when you're poor. You don't. You don't. When you're on the breadline, you don't feel human. You don't. And, you know, I suffered an eviction, and I thought I was going to live on the street. And that went on for about 4 months, me preparing to go on the street, selling my stuff and thinking, what do I value? My photo albums of my son, it boiled down to. And just saying, right, take them in a carrier bag to the hostel, and or if I end up on the street, what do I fear most about that? Coldness, hunger. And I started talking to people on the street about, there was one guy who lost his legs. He froze on the street. He's got frostbite and he had his legs cut off. And I spoke to him about that, cried about it, said I was scared. And he counseled me. And, you know, I've never met someone so close to God, you know. And to get pushed under life, you do get close to God. And also my relationship now with people that are on the street, it's, yeah, I look at them, I see myself. I see my real self, and with everything stripped away, you know, and it makes you realize that all we've got is the grace of God to hold us up. Anybody can get where I got. And it was Graham Johnson that brought me down to that. He started blogging about me. Then when people Google you, they see something negative. Oh, you've done something wrong, which I hadn't. You don't get the job. And so I fell into unemployment. Then there's the Sienna Miller thing that sealed it. And I went under. And I wasn't even guilty of it. If I was guilty of the Sienna Miller thing, ringing her GP, as if I'd ever do something so inane, then you think, okay, God, it's my punishment. But I didn't do it, so it was hard. It was really hard, but we do live in a sinful world. We live in a fallen world. This world isn't this world isn't perfect. It's a bad place, and there are bad people in it. I had basically gotten Sienna Miller that payout, and that was my return. But it's okay. It's okay. If you do that to somebody, you will receive karma. I know that she will get karma, and that's okay. I don't sit here praying, hoping she'll get karma. I have suffered the feeling, and it's wrong to hate her. I felt hatred of her, sometimes to a boiling pitch, but I pray around that and say, God, take care of me. I'm in pain. I don't want to hate. Take care of me in that, and God takes it away. So if you've been victimized by somebody, you can ask God to take it away, because they will always, if someone has hurt someone else, they will always feel that back. So, there's no need for us to go through life wanting vengeance on this person and that person. At the end of the day, everything's balanced. Everything's balanced, even if it's a next lifetime thing. And sometimes there's people such as we call the elite, the Illuminati, and, them saying, well, they reincarnate into the best lives over and over. And they've been doing that. Things are changing with the ascension, and everything is being revealed. So all these activities by the elite are being revealed. So party's over. Party's over. And this is what my book is about. The elite controlling spirituality here. The time has come for that to end. And those that have been enjoying it, that time has also come to an end. So there's no need to get angry. Just know God has got you. Have faith. So going back to poverty, so I'd experienced it. I'd seen my son experience it. To this day, my son has a bedroom where the roof, half of it has fallen in. There's black mold everywhere. So this is what I have had to watch him suffer. He hasn't had a holiday in 10 years. We can't afford luxuries. So he has suffered that. And the BBC, their comment on that was, he's not a child anymore. Lucille, thanks for that. But, as I say, you hurt others, especially aim it at a child. And yeah, okay, he's become an adult. But when you shower of shit, forgive me, Father, started on me, he was 12. Okay, so let's get this right. So the BBC are heinous. They're heinous. And stupidly, I didn't catch on to that. And a lot of people had told me that they are a really dark force, and those that work for them are demonically charged. I stupidly didn't heed. Never mind. It doesn't matter. I had to encounter them so I'd experience. Obviously, that's what Spirit wanted, and I've encountered them, and they're just, these people that are psychopathic, that don't care about others, that want to advance themselves at the expense of others. They'll just reap that back. There's no time when people hurt and harm and then get to have joy. The joy won't come. They might get the money, they might get the status, they might even get their careers rise, but they will, this tastes ashes in the mouth. Why aren't I actually feeling happiness anymore? It's because God's not on your side. He's not blowing the wind of the Holy Spirit into your life. That's why it's, I'm feeling I've got everything here, and yet hang on, I'm not feeling my children around me giving me joy. Well, you're not feeling it because that's what the spirit has decided to do because you've been hurting other people. This is what happens. So I've been aware of spirits since a child. I was beaten by my mother, sexually abused by my father, bullied every single day of my life by my older adoptive brother. And so I understand about this kind of thing. So, and was aware of spirit. And because when you're a child, if you're taking down abuse, spirit comes in and it kind of picks you up. And somebody said to me last night, do you think you got your gifts, my spiritual and psychic gifts, because of your childhood? Yes, of course. Of course. It's almost like you get pushed out of your physical body, and so you get the spiritual gifts that way. So it's almost like a compensation. So going back to poverty. So there I was in Joseph, looking at the clothes. Now, just running my fingers along the clothes, hanging up, looking round at the other women. It was, I nearly wept. I might have actually wept, but the feeling is I just felt human again. And having, the people in the shop, the girls serving, know that you're a serious customer rather than looking at you like it was wandered into the wrong place. It made me feel human again. I felt human again. So I did take that off, hacked off stroke Graham Johnson, the suit, and that was to be interviewed by the BBC. When I was interviewed then by these animals, these wretches, all they wanted was an attack on the male. Now, it's wrong to blag someone, you're doing this, to blag, you're doing that, and then to say, oh, we're against blagging. If these people want, well, they don't want it, it's just they don't want it. You don't get bad people wanting good things. They just want control. They want their agenda. I'm not sure what their agenda is, the BBC. Some people say it's like left wing. No, it's not left wing, because they are possibly, if they're socialists in any way, they're champagne socialists, because they're all, well-to-do. I don't believe that people that are well-to-do are often truly socialists, unless you're Vanessa Redgrave and her brother Corin, and these people have special hearts, and their special hearts resonate. Now, these BBC scum, they don't have hearts at all. They've just got a black soul. They're going nowhere. I don't even hate them because I know each individual, and I have their photographs. Each individual, I can just see staring deeply into their eyes. They're going nowhere. They haven't got a spiritual connection. They won't get to joy, and they will have a rough ride of life. So I don't hate them. So going back, the BBC were involved with filming Burroughs. He was to be in this documentary. I believe at that point, after I was abused by the BBC, I realized that the affidavit was also for the BBC and also for the courts. So it was like a two-pronged attack on the Daily Mail. They had made me say on camera at BBC that the Mail was racist. They'd accused me of things that I didn't do. I told them everything around the Sienna Miller issue, but they wanted me to have rung Jude Law. If they wanted me to say that, I would have said, okay, I rang, but no, I did ring him, but to ask him if I could interview him, just because I had the number. The Sun wanted me to ring Jude Law and ask him, did he know about Sienna Miller terminating his child? Now, it's just something I can't do. It's spiritually wrong. It's really wrong. I don't want to get involved in a pregnancy termination at all, and the whole spiritual connections with it. And as for knowing about that someone's done that, it's just horrific. And that's through phone hacking. For some reason, Graham Johnson couldn't work that out, but yet Michael Gillard worked that out after. I mean, it's why, or, excuse me, someone near Sienna Miller, a quite horrific enemy that sounds like dark feminine envy, but I can see how it's seductive. Here's somebody that has everything: beauty, talent, a good life. Somebody nearby that doesn't have that, maybe thinks that they deserve that, to ring Rebecca Brooks and say, guess what she's doing now. I can understand that. But Sienna Miller's been lied to. It wasn't someone like that. It was Christine Hart. Well, sorry, but it absolutely was not me. Before God himself, it was not me. I am aware of Sienna Miller. She was supposed to play me in a film version of my book. Of course, if anybody phones me, I'm going to be alerted to it. My whole being will be alerted to it. The only time I was ever contacted about her was one time by Rebecca Brooks and informed she had a pregnancy termination and she was currently in this place having it done. She'd gone in at this hour. She was going to come out. All these details, who she was seeing, she's having this termination. Yeah, and it belonged to this individual. And I was literally horrified. I remember where I was on that day. I was outside my friend Hugh Burnett's house. He's a BBC film producer. So I had a bit of a break there. So the Sienna Miller thing went around everywhere, and my chances of continuing to work hit the deck. So that ruined me. I was plunged into even further poverty, and as a single mother, it was only later that my son turned 18. BBC people. I thought it was pretty sick. I mean, I just think to involve children and then to say, they're 18 now. No. When this began, my son was 12, so he's really been affected by it. But you people don't care. Again, that's a great sin, and it will rebound on you. But you'll taste that. You'll begin to taste it. I don't need to perform any kind of reversals, energy reversals, to make sure that happens. That will happen as a matter of course. And the BBC has caused a lot of people a lot of harm, and to work for people that have done that involves its own karma. I will probably receive forms of karma. Well, I have done, I believe, for working for the tabloid press, but then one looks back and sees how I got into working for them. It wasn't by choice. I also do believe in the Monarch programs, so I've examined that in my book, it's why I've had to write it over and over to see, just to become enlightened myself as to decisions and events. And so this is what happened. It was in cahoots with the BBC, hacked off, Graham Johnson being the kind of cog which around everything revolved. He was at the very center of the whole thing. And I'm not sure great motives were there. At the start I was told this is to help people, but then, like BBC, this is to help people. You suck that up, and then you see these people aren't there to help people. They're just there in their own little battle against, well, in this case, the male. Against the male. They don't like the male. I think it boils down to politics. it boils down to Nick Davies was more honest about this. He said one time when he met me back in 2009, "Oh, I've been tailed. I'm under surveillance." And I was like, "Wow, who by?" And he said, "Oh, it's just the right wingers." And I said, "Oh." And he said, "Don't worry, there's far more powerful people behind me." So this is all political agenda. That's why Nick Davies' book was completely empty. Completely empty. It was an agenda. And they have agendas, but the common person isn't helped by either right or left, because actually just look a little bit higher above that pyramid and you see that it isn't about helping the people, either of them. Both sides are elite and both sides see the working person just as non-entities, just as they're non-human. So please don't be fooled by right or left and that'll be good for us. Nothing will be good for us at this point in time. There's really dark things coming down the line for all of us. And they'll just have to be tolerated because this world has been taken over by the agenda of something dark that doesn't have humanity in its best interest. And it will be, in a way, business as usual for those who have suffered. But it will be a complete change for those who haven't, which is the elite on both sides. Both sides, as you go up the pyramid, just becomes one. They're serving their own agenda, the elite agenda on both sides. And so these are warring. They do fall out with each other, you know. So they're warring. And it does annoy me sometimes when you see the public and they're going, "Yay, royalty are attacking the male," and "Yay, go there, good is fighting evil." Bloody hell. I mean, are people that dozy right now? I mean, just, it's so silly. It's almost like, "Oh, they're good looking. Yeah, I want the good looking one to win." It's like really weird. Really weird. These people are literally a different species from you. They reincarnate over and over and have the best lives. And I'm not talking about, not just talking about royalty. It's fairly easy to see they're different. They come from a different, it's a different seed, different seeding. So if you're listening to this, you're probably reincarnated over and over in a lower position. Now, that to start with was a normal, natural thing where it involved karma and it involved your soul growing. Now, the elite, who are very up on the occult, soon worked this out. And they didn't want it because they don't appreciate God. They don't appreciate the mechanisms of God. They want them all destroyed. So they own the realms. And it's not just Earth. It's about higher realms. They want to own them. And this is a human construct. It's not the Anunnaki. It's not Satan. That just means attacker on God. We're Satan. It's not Lucifer. It's humanity. Over time, have sniffed out, even though they were created, have sniffed out, they've turned against their creators, which were the Anunnaki, created them. And there was a time when they interacted with them, but that soon stopped. And they decided that they would make their own way. And this is what's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. And now the created ape owns the earth. Now, the created ape is a very hierarchical creature. And so there will be the big silverback apes at the top of the pyramid, and then the rest that will be treated in a very bad way, almost like slaves. Now, they objected to the Anunnaki treating humanity like slaves, but they have inflicted so much worse. But things are changing. They're very much changing. So we should really wake up to what's been happening. And there's no such thing as bad luck and good luck and, people dreaming that they could do this, they could do that. No, the higher levels have been hogged by this certain seeding. There's been certain seedings as humanity have moved forward. They have hogged it and they've committed various atrocities going through time. It's not been about the English or the Irish. It's about this particular seeding that's created, and they've got in positions of power like the BBC, and so it's all none of it's good. None of it's good. Only God is good. Humanity is a bad invention, is a mistake, and this is a war between it continuing and it coming to an end. I personally believe it should come to an end. I personally prefer that agenda for us to rise up to the other realms where we have a better existence, where the existence is about, it is impossible to lie. It, in the higher astral levels, you rise higher, not based on how much money you've got in your bin, how many people you've hurt or exploited, who you know, who you've been born into. It's based on your heart. Is your heart full of lighter energy, the dual colours, or is it dark and dense? If it's dark and dense, you go down or up. So this is what the higher astrals are about. Your thoughts in your head, everyone can see them. So you have purity of thought. If you don't have purity of thought, then you go down. So it's all very simple, and it works on a different kind of system. It's not the evil systems that have been in place here that aren't fair. It's not a fair system. It's not based on anything good. It's been taken over. The system of God that was put in place originally was ripped out, and it's humanity that is the Satan. So this is what's happened. So please don't take sides over different factions fighting against each other for positions in a sick world. It's get on with your own life and helping the poor and those who've been downtrodden, because the downtrodden are closer to God. There's been, Rishi Sunak put things in place about people begging and nuisance begging. Do you see how he doesn't see poor people as human? He doesn't see them as human. So all these things are only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not, this place will never be a good place. It's always been fallen, and it's only going to come to a crescendo where Satan is let loose for a season. But there is the up point on this, in that there will be enlightenment. There will be enlightenment if you haven't been partaking of these things, of exploiting people, etc. You will have that enlightenment. If you've been dwelling in darkness, you will see this as a light. So it's a good thing. It's a really good thing that's happening. And also it is the end. It is the end of this whole third dimension and the whole prison of the matrix. It's coming to an end. So as they say, there's a worse darkness before dawn, and this is what's happening right now. The deep darkness that will get worse. The war over there with Russia will escalate. It won't stop. There won't be an end. It will escalate higher and higher and higher until it comes to a point of we will be horribly affected here. And I've seen ahead what is to happen. A nuclear event over there in Ukraine. I believe it will be a false flag. And then a takeover of the whole of Europe by a communist, by inflicting a communist regime on all of us. Now, it won't affect you if you've been poor. It will only affect those who have gathered and now will have to live without that, that will be difficult for them. Going back to materialism, going back to the standing in the boutique, Joseph, we've been taught that materialism means something, and I'm no different from that. I have, on that day, I felt human. That is what it is to be human, to have a nice car, to have a big house, to go to boutiques. If you're not experiencing that, we have been taught, oh, you're outside, you're an outcast, you're different. We're certainly treated like that, and it's different places like India where people understand, and China, where people understand that Buddhist kind of ethic, and Hindu as well, of the ascetic, of not buying into all of that. But I'm not there yet. I wish I was. On that day when I went in Joseph, I felt better. I felt seduced. I was seduced to go and talk to the BBC with a Joseph suit. It was blue though, come on. And so I took part in that, and it was only after when this one of them, but they were all in on it, this little team of this absolute shower of shit from this BBC department. They are the worst individuals. They're not journalists. A journalist will want to get to the truth. They didn't want the truth. They were like, oh, we've got Sienna Miller, we've got Sienna Miller. They were overwhelmed by celebrity. Oh, God. They wanted me to fit what she had said. And because my story, I mean, I can only have my truth and tell what happened. Also, I note that my story was against Rupert Murdoch, was against Rebecca Brooks. And then if you look in the back pages of Tatler, now I read Tatler magazine, and maybe I'm a pathetic snob. I like looking at the women in there. No, I'm not lesbian. I like looking at the women in Tatler because I like, seeing they're having a beautiful life and I'm having a poor life. And I'm thinking, are they really happy? And that's the only reason I look at it. So there I was flicking through the back pages, and all the time this moron from the BBC, yes, you, James Newton, was saying, oh, Sienna Miller's suffering a trauma. She's suffering a trauma. There she was in Tatler magazine, looking ecstatic with champagne and a really gorgeous guy who I believe is called Oliver. Now, not being funny, you want to see trauma, see a sexual abuse victim like I am, but no. He knew all that. He'd seen Searching for Daddy. He told me Heather Mills, who's the only human being involved in all of this, had felt for me. I then said, is she going on the show? No, she's not. Yeah, you wouldn't want a human being near your little broadcast there. So my testimony didn't fit in with one of their goddesses, and instead of maybe putting us together in that case, and putting the camera in close-ups on people's eyes, and then maybe fleshing out who was the real devil, not Sienna Miller. She's been lied to by Graham Johnson and others. Actually, Murdoch. And he didn't want to do that. No, because you look on those backs of Tatler, who do you see? Rupert Murdoch in those elite parties. And Jerry Hall. So, top of the pyramid, they don't want to attack Murdoch. They decided, now I don't know, now this will be spiritually based. It will be spiritually based, okay? Everything's spiritually based. Let's look at the Daily Mail, look at who they're spiritually owned by. I believe it's Lord and Lady Rothermere. Now, who are these people? What are they? Who are they? You will actually, if you investigate it, now I'm just not inclined right now, but you will, if you investigate it, investigate these people, you will find somehow they have upset the rest of the top layers of the pyramid in some kind of way. So that has to be looked at, and that is why they're being targeted. Nothing to do with, oh, they're evil, they've done this. Nothing to do with that. It will be for some other reason, and it will always be a deeper spiritual reason if you look at it. And I mean, I haven't looked at it, but this will be what's behind it. So the BBC were very much, they didn't want my truth. They didn't want my truth. And I was giving them the scrapings of my soul. They didn't want it. They wanted me to say what Sienna Miller had said. They just, because again, they were on side with Graham Johnson. Graham Johnson had said, yada, 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 yada. None of it was true. And so they wanted to put that out there. Why? Because they want to target the Daily Mail. Graham Johnson said to me, at those first meetings I had with him in 2016, he was more open. Don't forget, we knew each other back in the day, so we were like muckers and we could talk frankly to each other. And over drinks, he had said, if I can prove you've done illegal things when you were on the press, he said, I can attack the Mail with that. He said, if I can prove that you have got people's medical records, which, by the way, is an impossibility. He said every time a celebrity has been in the Daily Mail for being pregnant or sick, he said, I can say that you did that. And I laugh because it seems funny because it's so naughty. But this has been the agenda all the way along the line. And the BBC wanted that agenda to launch this massive attack on the Daily Mail. They pushed me. They broke a sweat. I was interviewed by James Hanning. It was a good interview. He also tried to hit me a curveball. Now, these people can, try and hit me a curveball, but it won't work because I'm telling the truth before God. So it's like you're telling the truth before God, and someone thinks, yeah, I'm gonna fuck you. I'm gonna surprise you with something. Well, but you can't because you're standing firm in God. Do you understand? You can't hit someone a curveball when they're standing by the truth, because whatever comes as a curveball will bounce off the truth. Do you understand? They couldn't understand that. It might be a low IQ problem, probably is. But they kept saying, oh, you said this, you said that. And I'm like, oh, I know I said that, but it's for that reason. Anyway, they tried to do a few of these over the interview. They were quite funny. I do find it's funny because it's like suddenly the room goes quiet and they all start slapping their lips, and it's like, no, now we're going to get her. But to me, they go, are you all right? Would you like more orange juice, coffee? Oh, yes, please. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you. And then they're like, okay, let's get ready. This will fuck her. And then we'll get what we want, which is the Mail. And then they're like, said, by the way, we've just read this email you sent, and you said yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, I know I said yada, 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 because this person thinks I'm doing this, and so I have to speak to him in his language. And then they look, and then they're like, weird, scared little rabbits. Hang on, this isn't going the way we want. And it's like rabbit in headlights. And they're like, but. And I'm like, yeah, this. And it's it is amusing. Anyway, we did that interview. And then James Newton thought, hang on, James Hanning isn't good enough. Now, James Hanning, they should have respected him more. He's a really good journalist. And he, although he hates the Mail, I do believe he believes in fighting fairly. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe that. Anyway, he had done the best to his ability. Now, the best to his ability is quite high up there, but they didn't think that. They thought, I know James Newton could do better. So he took me to the woods. The woods in Richmond Park, it was really isolated. And I had said to my ex, would you come with me? And he went, BBC scumbag, I'll give him a hard time, paedophile lovers. And I'm like, oh, God, no. And to protect James Newton and his doxy, I didn't bring Paul. But I could have. This is how I protect people. Because I didn't want to write on an invoice, Sienna Miller abortion, I put pregnancy checks. This is how helping others, when you're dealing with people like this, it will backfire. Because they can't understand that way of being. They just can't grasp it. But on that day, I didn't bring Paul. I could have. He wasn't doing anything. He wanted to come to give him a hard time. And he's very aggressive and scary. And he would have scared James Newton. He would have probably given James Newton a time that he wouldn't have forgot. He wouldn't have forgot. Not in a hurry. Anyway, so down I went. Now, first when I met them in Richmond Park, they came, oh, hello, they did the Friends jibe. Well, that's feigning affection, so there you go for sin number one. I had meditated on it first. I'd interacted with my spirit guides. My spirit guides had informed me they were going to give me a really bad time. So I went along knowing this in advance. Anyway, there they were friendly, 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 all the way down. How is your son? All that kind of thing. And then he came in with all these accusations. Some of them, one in particular, had been something that I'd tested James Hanning with. And when he did it, he was like so excited. It was almost a shame to let him down, with all these accusations. And I stood there and laughed. And he said, "Why are you laughing though?" And I was laughing because me and another journalist had decided to plant this um, fake thing that the Daily Mail had supposedly done that I knew they would bite. So, just for lols. And so I'd said it to James Hanning. He had recanted it straight to, this is how hacked off. And I want to test, were they working together? Because I thought this isn't right. Because the BBC aren't supposed to have an agenda. They're not supposed to be hacked off. They're not supposed to have all this. They're politically active, basically. They're politically active for social, champagne socialism. So it's socialism. It's a mask. It's not true socialism. It's all about, oh God, what someone would have to. It's all about you. You're not going to have even more, and we're going to make out when we're not letting you have even more. We're going to make out we're the good guys. So it's virtue signaling, and it's so dishonest. So this is their agenda, and but they're not supposed to have that because I guarantee you, everybody's signing, paying their licenses all the time, don't have this agenda. I mean, they won't all have they won't all have that. So it's dishonest. They're not unbiased. They're working for something that is against the people, and they're actively doing it. Actively doing it, yeah. And they're not supposed to be. If I told this to Hugh Burnett, I wish Hugh Burnett was alive to see this. He would turn in his grave because, and even Sylvia Jones has said, BBC aren't like that. They're decent. No, they're not. And I would have to experience it, and I've experienced it, and it got nastier. Oh, it got nastier. Now, firstly, I'm a woman and I'm older, and if I'd have not meditated and not had, I have really powerful spiritual guides. They are powerful. Are they jinn? I don't really care. What I care about is I am informed, and if I'm attacked by somebody, I can also send them out. So that's what I care about. I'm not going to be a victim. So I was completely warned about what would happen. So we were in the woods together, and they started abusing me. Now, I'm lucky. If I hadn't been warned, I might have got really stressed. It was nasty. They were both shouting at me at once. I couldn't care less about that. I thought, wow, you're pretty not nice people. Lots of fakeness coming back. I give them a lift. I thought, whatever, if that's the way they're going to work, that's the way they're going to behave, let them put it out there. I'm a firm believer in the public will see the truth anyway. So I thought, what the hell? They'd given me a hard time. I'd known it was coming. In a way, I had foxed them. I don't think they got what they want. And indeed, they didn't get what they want, because then Newton took to ringing me constantly and going on. Now, it was around the Jude Law phone call. I hadn't needed to tell him about that even. But this is how I wanted to help them. Now, I wanted to help them not because I don't like the Daily Mail. I just saw that they were piss poor and they weren't doing a very good job. I even said that to James Hanning. So pity made me want to help them. But it wasn't good enough. And I didn't understand this, and it was only when it was explained by Michael Gillard. He said, your testimony jars with theirs. They have a celebrity on board, a Lovey. they're treated like a goddess. Now, if anything you say jars with what she said, they don't want that. They want you to say, and so what Newton wanted was blood out of a stone. I couldn't give him what he wanted. It literally, okay. So if somebody asks you to check out an abortion, which is horrific, did I want to be told that when I came back from Belfast after working for the Sunday Times? No, I didn't. I wanted to support my child. I was in a bad way. My relationship had fallen through. I was at the Priory. I was under what would be termed complete stress. The Sun was bullying me, saying we won't give you journalistic work unless you do ABCD. I had been talking to Mark Collins at the Priory about this. Somebody asked me, oh, are you sure you told him? That's what he's there for. It's literally like a paid friend. Of course you tell him all your stresses and strains and what you've been pressured under. So this was in that atmosphere that this went down. Now, I was asked to ring an abortion clinic, but somebody was in there, this Sienna Miller. I found that evil. I found it intrusive. I found it, I didn't know what it was about, but I know what I sussed it might be about, which is blackmail. And blackmail is 10 years in prison. Do I want to get involved in it for a couple of £100? Fuck no. So I was open with the BBC about that. Now, you see, that's against Murdoch. So they didn't want it. Didn't want it. And you think, but hang on, isn't that good TV to talk about that? Blackmail at high levels. Well, no, they don't want that. What they wanted was something completely different, was wanted me to go along with the narrative. So I couldn't. How could I have rung? Now, I was willing to say I had asked Jude Law, but I hadn't asked him. I had only asked him about, I just showed off in front of a Sheen mother and baby group. Oh, look, I know Jude Law's number. Look, here it's ringing. Look, he's answering. Hello, I'm a journalist, yada, yada. So I'd just been showing off. James Newton wanted me to say that I had asked, was Sienna Miller pregnant? Now, why I couldn't oblige him with saying that, and I would have, I'm a people pleaser extraordinaire, I couldn't, because by the time I was tasked with that, sitting outside Hugh Burnett's house, there wasn't a baby anymore. Do you see? So how could I have asked? That would be just despicably evil to ask. I mean, it's all evil, but that would be even worse, no? To know that something doesn't exist anymore and to say to Jude Law, do you know about, I mean, what? How would that, I mean, it wouldn't be, I mean, how would you do that? So I said to him, how would I do that, actually? But he chose, I mean, it was like he didn't believe me, but I don't really understand why he didn't believe me. I just didn't get it. So he was ringing me a lot on a withheld number. I'm guessing he didn't use his staff number, so his superiors, I'm suing them now, so his superiors could check. So I'm guessing he got pay as you go to harass me on. And he, no, I don't care about suing. I don't care about that. I just wanted that flagged up because he does that to me. He'll do it to another woman. So they, and I don't believe it was just him. I believe that whole little posse. But don't worry. They're I've eyes full on all of them. So anyway, so he was doing this, and I didn't understand it. Now the thing was, I was told to by James Hanning and Graham Johnson. He has to go through James Hanning to speak to you, because I had then built up a relationship with James Hanning. I'd been out to dinner with him many times. My son had come along. So therefore we had a relationship. And I liked James Hanning. He's very charming, very good looking, great to talk to. He's fascinating company, great to go out to dinner with. You're never bored. He's a famous writer. He's been in places like Eton and that I don't know about. So he's very interesting to me. So very stimulating company. So I enjoy talking to him. So the rule was for Bruce Lipton, is it Lipton, who works for Sky, and any of these TV people that were culminating in this summer of 2000 and, was it 2020 or 2021? 2021, yeah. No, stupid me. 2022. Okay. If there was a lot of TV people around um, that wanted to do stuff on Massa mainly. And again, Graham Johnson, because they were all going to him. I've never known someone have so much power in life, literally, over the media. Um, anyway, they were all asking Graham Johnson. And so he said about me, you all have to go through James Hanning. I didn't mind that because also James Hanning isn't greedy. He's not going to try and, sort of use me in any way monetarily. So I thought, I don't mind, these TV people. Not that they offer money, it's all about the BBC were like, no, we can't pay you, but I got the Joseph suit. So apparently, if they pay you, your testimony is warped. I don't really understand that way of looking at things. Anyway, so everyone was supposed to speak to me um, through James Hanning, but James Newton wouldn't do it. So I ended up emailing him and saying to him, I want you to go through James Hanning like you're supposed to. I rang James Hanning, complained, he's upsetting me, he's bullying me, he's upsetting me, said that's out of order, what is it around? I said Sienna Miller, this Jude Law phone call. And he more or less said the guy was an idiot. And he said, why is he doing that? You've already been interviewed, they've had a second pop at you, what does he want? What does he want? He didn't understand it. We then had a conversation about maybe he's sexually obsessed with Sienna Miller. And James Hanning said, there was a reporter that he knew once who interviewed Ellie Macpherson and then became really weirdly like sexually obsessed with her, like so, like that. And we both together agreed that this is what happened to James Newton. He'd become sexually obsessed with Sienna Miller and hysterically. And I can understand looking at her face. She's not very magical face. It's very, I suppose if I was a man, I'd become sexually obsessed too. I mean, maybe if I met her, I'd be bowled away and sort of fantasizing about having sex with her all the time and wanting to people please her. But Newton was crushing me, literally crushing me in this sexual obsession. So with his sexual obsession, it's almost like, what is it like? The only thing I've got it to compare it to, because it was quite unique, is Chris Berry-D's treatment of Kenneth Bianchi. Now, he sees it as his own personal mission to destroy psychologically Kenneth Bianchi. So he will think of various ways and interact with him in ways that will, I don't know, it's almost like, Now, I've witnessed it, and it literally, I always thought, Jesus, I'd hate to have Chris Berry-D as my sworn enemy. I mean, he's good at fucking people, but in that psychological way, like, it's not like, I'm going to fucking duff you up, or it's almost like my brother used to do with, I'm going to make your life a misery, and they say it in such a way that you feel, ooh, and it touches your soul. This is in that way. I mean, totally in that way. And it was like he wanted to crush me. And it's like and I noticed the hysteria in it. I was confused because I had literally given him all I had. And I'd let myself be bullied by him and his doxy in the woods. And I had eschewed Paul. I could have brought him along, and I tell you, Paul would have ripped both of them up, and he would have given them a nasty time. And that guy would have shit his pants, because Paul is good at making people scared. He's one of those people that you think, oh, is he going to really freak out and sort of go into some kind of weird mode? He would have scared them. I protected him against that, and I felt that same kind of feeling towards him, that he wasn't a very good journalist, and I maybe had to baby him in some way as an older person. So I had tried to help as much as I could, and at the end of the day, what do I care about the Daily Mail? You know, as I said, elite are elite. So I'd done my best, so I'd given my all, but it didn't. I still was at the point where I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. But he started this weird thing against me, this almost like Chris Berry D versus Kenneth Bianchi activity in these phone calls. And I didn't understand what was going on. I became confused. It was weird. It was really weird. It was almost like he was... I still don't understand. It was almost like he was bringing something to bear on me that I shouldn't have had it. Maybe it was about sex. Maybe it was, you know, when I was younger, my older adoptive brother, a lot older, brought to bear on me his sexuality. He made me walk up and down from the age 6 doing stripteases for him. Now, no, I didn't enjoy doing them. Up and down, lift your night, you just tease me, thrust your lower self towards me. Now let me touch it. Now back off. Now do it again. Now pull your top off. Let me see your... I mean, do you have boobs at 6? He made me do that every single night. Now, the upshot was I don't have my sexuality. I've never made love with a man. And, you know, do I not dream of that? Do I not want to do that? Yeah, I do. I spent my life having weird relationships with rapists. And it's like I'm trying to undo a knot. Now, I spent my whole life in therapy. I've done primal therapy, EMDR, the Priory. Nothing's helped me. Primal therapy helped me get rid of a lot of the pain. I did the Sarah Adams thing recently. That's helped me. That's offloaded a lot of anxiety. But I still haven't had sex. Properly. You know, I let men do it. And, but I don't know. I don't understand why I go to the rapist. I don't understand why I try and have sex with the rapist. I mean, I literally, with Bianchi, tried to manipulate him to a point where I could get him and be sexual with him. It's quite difficult, especially if they're resisting you. It's not great for the ego either, I can tell you. So this is what I was stuck doing. That's the upshot of my treatment day after day from my brother. And there's more. And then there's the sexual abuse from my father. That is what I had attacking my sexuality, almost eating into it. And I was adopted, so they were a different seeding to me, different bloodlines. And the bloodlines war against each other, even though we humans aren't conscious of it. And I would say that I was completely something opposite from their bloodline. They literally saw me as food. So going back to how I've been stuck, and I've been judged about that. Why are you visiting the serial killers? Why are you doing this? Oh, you're a bad person. Don't you think of their victims? Well, you know, do you think I want to go and spend every waking day trying to inveigle myself into the life of a serial killer? These are very paranoid people. They don't want you close to them. And I literally had to get as close as I possibly can. They don't like it. They don't want you there. They don't fucking like it. So I was doing something that they didn't like. I was expending all my energy into it, which is why Ian Brady said, and it's quoted in the Sunday Times, through his social worker, Jackie. He has never met anyone he's hated in his life apart from Christine Hart. And I believe Kenneth Bianchi is the same. Why? Because I can and am able to inveigle myself very, very close, like a little tick, and then start sucking on them. And do I know why I was doing it? No, I don't know. Maybe to try and make sense of the past, maybe to find out why it literally sucked their blood, literally to find out why my brother was, and father and mother, because she took to whipping me and sexual abuse. She would peer at me through the keyhole when I was in the bathroom trying to take a bath. And this is a 5, 6, this is young as fuck. This is what I tolerated. So, and James Newton started to abuse me in that same way as my adoptive family did. And there was something almost sexual about it. I haven't got in contact with my anger around James Newton. It's totally flaccid, but I know it will come. It will come. And this moron, he was like interviewing me for being a private investigator of the highest order, and he was like hiding his mobile number. It's kind of funny, the naivety there. Anyway, so going back to Newton, he was bringing something to bear on me, and it almost felt like my adoptive family, and it got into me in a really weird way. Now, I don't know. I still don't understand it. So anybody who's listening and can enlighten me, that would be fantastic. But I've been not having comments under this because I've been trolled by this one and that one, which I believe is connected to Graham Johnson. Don't troll me. You know what I'll do with your energy? I will absolutely suck it into me and I will track you. So don't troll me. Okay, so going back to Newton bringing this to bear on me, was it not connected with anything and totally James Newton, totally his total sexual obsession with Sienna Miller? Now, it might be because she's hot, isn't she? So, and she's got that weird kind of thing that when she speaks, it's even more like, wow. So, I mean, maybe if I was a man and met her, I'm trying to think, what guys do I like? Mickey Rourke, maybe I suppose if I met him. I don't really understand it. I suppose, yep, I don't understand it. I want to understand it. I need to understand it. I will eventually understand it. I will pick it apart. That's what I do. So I don't care if it takes me the next 10 years. I'll get to the bottom of it. So anyway, it won't take 10 years. Anyway, so was it that he was so aroused by her? He literally wanted to people please her by crushing me, by getting me to say something that matched with what she was saying. Because my testimony was like, so, but it's blood out of a stone, because how can I say what goes against the whole of my testimony? I was willing to people please him, and if he wanted me to say, ask Jude Law, has she just had an abortion here? I'd have been willing to say that to people please. What do I care about the press? They haven't done me any favours. They dropped me like a hot potato after the phone hacking, which I had nothing to do with. And John Boyle still hasn't paid penance for that. Never mind, he's rich, so why should he pay? So going back to the sexual obsession, because I find it interesting as well, things like this. So he had this thing. He was trying to get blood out of a stone. He wanted me to say that I rang Jude Law and said, do you know about the pregnancy? Now, because it didn't exist when the call came into me, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have. It's an impossibility. It's a contortion. I couldn't put myself. I couldn't say that. So he kept this up over a period of time, and it had a weird energy behind it, and I don't know where it came from. As I said, I talked to James Hanning about it. That is on tape. And he said he thought it was sexual obsession because he'd seen it before. So I said, well, I'd rather he went through you. He said, fine. He said, I'll email him. And I emailed him. I just spoke to James. Yada, yada. Anyway, matey boy with a sexual obsession didn't get the memo. We kept the calls up. And I started to have a really weird reaction. I think it was reminding me of my brother because there was something very intrusive about it. There was almost something, I'm going to fuck up your life, cunt, about it. And things like that are only, they only come about when it's like somebody is a threat to you in some kind of way, in a deep, deep way. Now, I don't know whether this guy thought he was going to get laid by Sienna Miller after the program came out and he victimized me as someone who would hurt her when I fucking hadn't. I don't know. But he brought to bear on me his sexuality, his sexual obsession. That's why it triggered me. Reminded me of my brother with his pent up needing to release sort of onto me. I suffered. I was tortured. I didn't want to strip for him. It's my sexuality for my partner in the future, not on some acne-drenched, greasy head, supposed brother who's supposed to be platonic, greasy, relieving his poison fluids. This is what Newton was doing on me. It was like a sexual obsession that I was standing in the way of. Oh, you're standing in the way, you're standing in the way. He must have deep down believed that he had a chance with Sienna Miller. Oh, you're standing in my way. I can relieve myself if only you molded to this shape. Then I can relieve myself. And he brought that tension, that sexual, that pent up, like with my brother. I need to release. I'm a teenager here. I'm feeling this. I need, don't stand in my way. Lift your nightie. Say you spoke to Jude Law. Say. And he brought this to bear on me. And I broke. And I broke because it reminded me of my childhood rape. Yeah, that's what my brother crescendoed at. So I snapped. I ended up down the alleyway of my parents' house, clawing to get in. I made a tape down the road, sitting at the park, where I was howling like a wolf. And that's horrific, that tape. So and that's not normal journalism. I have never, and I've been in the trade for a long time, not ever come across that, ever. And that individual needs psychiatric counselling because of the way he is. Okay? There's something in him, and he's, 45? And he works for the BBC. That will happen again. I guarantee you that will happen again. So he needs to be looked at by superiors, but the superiors aren't. Apparently, according to Michael Gillard, they just deny. Oh, no, he says no. He says no, he didn't upset her. It didn't upset me. Oh, he did more than upset me. That hasn't been looked at. Why? They don't care. I'm a working class scumbag. They don't care. Now, I'm not suing them because I want compensation. I didn't think for 1 nanosecond that they would be honest enough to compensate me for that abuse. You're not dealing with decent people. You're dealing with psychopaths. They're never gonna, do you go to gangsters and say, do people go to rapists and say, they They think, no, hang on, you're just shit. You're shit. You're what I used. You're a wank rag. Go away. Do they imagine for 5 seconds that I didn't know that they would have that response to me? Go away. No. Oh, I knew. You don't need incredibly powerful spirit guides to know. I don't care. Absolutely don't care. I wanted to flag it up because that is, it's off my conscience now. If he hurts someone else, nothing to do with me. I've flagged it. So this is what happened to me. I was in a really, really bad way. And you know what? Actually, my lawyers are saying the BBC hired him. But the BBC, I mean, how could they have known how fucked up that individual was at the end of the day? But they've all been pretty snide. Claire came along to the Ivy after I'd signed that affidavit. And going back to the affidavit, it was altered. It was altered. Now, again, I'm a journalist, so I wrote down the affidavit, then I read it back and noticed it had been altered to say I'd done these really bad things. So I removed it, and when we went to the lawyer's office, I'd signed the changed one, the one that I changed back again. But you don't do this. You don't forge affidavits. It's wrong. It's like you don't give a wank about the law. Now, regards to Sienna Miller case, I believe Graham Johnson bore witness, and I believe someone must have said I rung her GP. Now, what I want the GP to do, and I've been working on this with the GMC, I want to find out who this man is, and I want to find out, or a woman, and I want to find out, yeah, okay, Mr. GP, now, if this is even true, who rang you? What did they say? Now, apparently, this is what's been put out. Someone rang the GP and said they were Sienna Miller's assistant. And now tell me if she's pregnant. And then somebody rang Sienna Miller and said, oh, can we have the files or the files you requested? Now, hang on, how does that even make sense? That smacks of something Graham Johnson has told. Because when we sat together, I said, how would you think I would do anyone's medical records? Because this is a rumour went round back in the day because I was in the Priory. Oh, Christine, find out who's in the Priory. You're there after all. I was like, no. And they were like, no, do it, or you get pushed out of Fleet Street. So I thought, I'll deal with them in the way I dealt with my brother. You say, yes, okay. And then you go and find a way round it. There's a way round it. I just lied to them. And there's proof of that because Murdoch was sued on more than one occasion in quite a big way. And I thought, well, they'll stop asking me, but they didn't. So I dealt with it in the only way I knew how. I certainly didn't do it. No, I'm bigger now. I don't get, my brother doesn't get to tell me to walk up and down and strip. And if I get men telling me, go and do something illegal, you sad little scummy bitch, I don't do it. No, I don't walk up and down and lift my nightie anymore. But Graham Johnson wants me to have done it because it makes him get his $5,000 a week. So he's been doing this and putting out there for the last 6 years. It's ruined me. I haven't had work for the Sienna Miller thing out there online that I rang her GP. It is an absolute cock and bull nonsense. And it's lying before a judge. You know, this is lying before a judge. Yeah? So what I want to do and what I'm working on with the GMC, finding this GP, saying, hang on, so Mr. Educated GP, somebody rang you and said they were someone's assistant and they wanted information. Now, according to reports, you gave them that information. And then you rang Sienna Miller and said, here's the files you requested. Well, firstly, doctor's offices don't have files. Everything's on computers, no files. So why did you do that? Why? Why did you do that? Why didn't you say, hang on, who are you? I can only speak to a patient about a patient's records. But apparently that didn't take place. So I want to investigate this man. I'm also considering suing, if he exists, suing him because of his incompetence, I'm suffering. I'm also investigating, was it Victoria Newton that made this weird call? Because after all, it was her name on the story. But what it certainly wasn't was me, because of scum on Fleet Street, spotty-ass journalists imagine that I would ever ring anybody's GP or clinic or whatever. No, I fucking wouldn't. Oh, bitches, you asked me. But I'm not that little girl walking up and down having to show her vagina anymore. Oh, and you thought by bullying me I'd still go and do it like a good little stupid bitch? No, 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 no. I dealt with you in the only way I know how. Okay, I'm doing it. And if you said, we really know for sure, I'd say, yeah, it's true. And if you said, we think this isn't true, I'd say, no. And I told all this to Newton, but he didn't find that very interesting. So it didn't match with his agenda. I had to have done something wrong. How can they destroy the mail? How can they if I haven't done anything? So it didn't wash with him. He didn't want it. And that's not a journalist. That's just a PR for whatever agenda you're working for. It's a PR merchant. It's not a journalist. Don't ever think you can call yourself a journalist, mate. So journalism isn't supposed to be used when you want to attack something. That's you're campaigning. It's different. So he didn't want any of this. And he broke me because I was trying to be open with them. It's not like somebody came along, but I'd worked with them to be open and gave them literally, you know, when you give it your all because you want to help people. Mostly it was driven by pity because I could see the inadequacy there. For instance, why not respect James Hanning? You know, but they didn't. So it's like I tried to help, so I was very open, and then, you know, and it was pretty awful what I went through. It was awful, and it does deserve compensation, even though it's just a new laptop because mine's broken. It deserves that. And if James Newton were anyway a decent guy, he wouldn't even let the BBC go through any of that. He'd say, Christine, I'm sorry I hurt you. Here's a new fucking laptop. But he won't. And it affected my son. You know, my son saw me so upset and affected him, impacted him. And they didn't care about that. Their rejoinder about that is so dirty. It's like, he's not a child anymore, he's 18. Well, for shame, that's so dirty. And I know who said that. And wow, you dirty fucking bitch. Dirty bitch. And I know why you've got issues around children. Yeah. Anyway, so that is all I've got to say. But it's very interesting. Now, Gavin Burrows isn't somebody that I interacted with. Literally, we don't like each other. We only have that one phone call. But now I'm reading, people are sending me his Twitter, I can't see it. Now I'm reading that sorry, just to go back over the Miller stuff, it was only pointed out to me then when later I met with another journalist, Michael Gillard. He said, your testimony went against one of their people, which is Sienna Miller. Again, you're talking that elite kind of thing. He said, that's why they trod on you. What a horrible term, trod on. In all my years, I've never even heard of that. And he did literally tread on me with his boot trying to squeeze. As I said, because it was so bad, and it really was, I swear under God, strike me down. It was really bad. It was really, really, really bad. I haven't come into connection with my anger over it because it was so bad, but that'll come. I'm not just going to let this lie. Anyway, and fuck compensation. As I say, that man needs to step forward and apologize to me, meet my son, apologize to my son, and buy me a new fucking laptop. And a deep apology. Sorry, I'm I probably am in touch with my anger, but I'm just expecting it to be a whirlwind. Um, yeah. So anyway, recently Gavin, and I apologize for yattering on, because this is such a huge story, and there's huge elements in it. I think that Michael Gillard chap is probably the only one to be able to write about it because he's deep seeing and he sees every side and he hasn't got an ego. And it's only people that haven't got egos that are good at writing that can tell you everything without jizzing off under every paragraph. This is how I know this, aren't I? Sexy, he just writes plainly, and it appears on the page like a story because it is a story and it's quite an interesting story. There's an overarching curve here that I'm not seeing, and I haven't got that talent as much as that Michael Gillard guy has got to write in a way where you can see it clearly and you can see the whole overarching story. There's a movie here, I swear. It's all very dirty and dark, and it's a story needs to be told because I think the public need to see it because the public need to know that they're lied to. The BBC wanted to lie to the public to get them to go, bad Daily Mail, we need to kill you. And it's like we're manipulated and we're programmed, and we shouldn't be. It should be a free world. It's not a free world. And you see how this is probably the young versus the old as well. Do you see how Prince Harry rolled up to this on the side of the BBC, on the side of Hacked Off against the Daily Mail? And I believe Charles is in with the Daily Mail and Lord and Lady Rothermere. So it's that faction of elite versus another newer, the left wing, the yada yada version of, but it's not left wing. It's not, it's different. It's a champagne socialist left wing. It's a virtual signaling kind of way of controlling the public. It's a way of, you've now got this new world, everybody. It's new. Everybody's going to be treated fairly. No. It's just, okay. Because things are opening up and we're all seeing the elite as how they are and how they have a part in controlling us. It's not a distant God controlling us, it's them. And they appear, they reincarnate over and over in these elite positions. And they keep the rest of us down. Using the occult as well, yeah, which we are told bad, evil, can't. And so they have even more control over us. And so this is just a way of controlling. It's because they realize now, because of the ascension, because of the new energies, we're seeing, and we're going to see, the old ways of controlling ripped apart. The veil will be ripped. We'll see the bad guys. But what we don't, so what's coming in is a new version of the elite. They're wearing a new face. Do you see? It's like almost like the News of the World. The News of the World will be closed down. It's so bad. We're now opening the Sun on Sunday. Well, it's Matt Bell. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, it's still the same tabloid people. It's not different. It's the News of the World. They've just quietened themselves down. So this will be the same thing. It will be the same, but it will just show you a new face. Look, and Harry has been set up from that. He's a mixed race wife, and that's all very virtue signaling, and the new thing of being open and being anti the controlling press, and so but it's the same. It's just the same. He doesn't hate his father. It's just acted out in kind of because he is part of that bloodline. Bloodlines don't turn against each other. And I know people will say, but he's not bloodline. He's still elite bloodline. So this is just a different face. And it won't be, oh, socialism everywhere, we're going to treat you like you're equal. And no, that's not on the agenda at all. There's lots of different things on the agenda. A new way of abusing the lowers. So the overarching story is probably about the old with the new and the new face. It isn't a good thing. No. If you want to be connected to a good thing, you have to connect to spirit. That's the only, all this level is all being corrupted. It's all bad. There is no redeeming here. It's only going to get darker. So it's going to go to a pitch of black. and then it will end. So that is what we are seeing, and it's going to be very interesting. We're here and we're going to witness the end, and it's going to be fascinating times, but please don't go along with the narratives that the controllers are going to be putting out of new and changing. Whatever they say, don't listen. Connect up with God yourselves. Have an altar, a candle, picture of whoever you wish. I have Shiva right now, so I'm connecting with. So and then I connect with my spirit guides, and everybody's got a spirit guide. Everybody has that. You've been incarnating round and around and around for millennia. You do have lots of things in spirit. It's a bit like the Truman Show with people watching in the audience. You have an audience. You have an audience. Always do the right thing. Always try and connect with them because they see more. People that have passed on, they see more. They see it. As soon as they come out of their fleshy, bony jackets, they see. It's almost like a video game, this level, and it's a test. It's a test. It's a very hard test. But when you come out of your fleshy jacket, you'll see it as the test it was. Are you going to act good? Are you going to act bad? Are you going to go with this? Or are you going to go with that? And this is what it's all about. So anyway, sorry, back to my point of how I would like to be the one telling the whole story. I am not able. I haven't got that education. I haven't got that ability. But I do believe Michael Gillard has, and someone should commission him to write the book. But I don't suppose they will. So going back to Gavin Burrows, he apparently is now saying, although not to me, that he has been, gosh, I'm so hungry, that he has been asked to, that he had affidavits tampered with and altered, and apparently, not just like me, where it's just, you know, this line, that line inserted to make it look like I had done something criminal. And data thieving, which I have never done since a very early age. Now, people that steal data, they end up like John Boyle, super rich. I've ended up poor. I didn't want to go down that road just because I thought, just because I've always been spiritual, I've always been in touch with my spirit guides. That's a no-no for me, that road. So, yeah, that's a no-no. Also, so was buying property with Murdoch money. I was always told by spirit, no, don't try and get anything with it. So these people, they want compensation off Murdoch, but that's not good money. They should really try and off that money somewhere. I mean, they could transmute it if they gave it to charity, but it's not good money. You can't, no. So going back to, apparently Gavin Burrows had his book affidavits really screwed with, and apparently they put in, well, it was probably, I can't point the finger, but oh God, apparently they put in all this stuff about how he worked for the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, and how he bugged Elton John and all these people. Oh God, what a mess. And it's interesting, it's the same people as I was, as I had done journalistic stuff around. Now, I'm saving talking about that till court. I'm not going to have a repeat of the Sienna Miller. I wasn't called by Murdoch. What he did was roll over and pay. Now, Sienna Miller deserved compensation, but not for that, for something else. No, obviously related, but for intrusion on something else, which is pregnancy termination. Now, I should have had my time in court. Why didn't Murdoch want me in court? Because how did they find out that very personal and horrific information? Well, had to be either phone hacking or someone close to her. Now, she deserves to have that flushed out. It's never flushed out. Graham Johnson stood in the way of that, and others that gave an incorrect testimony. And that's before a judge. It's no respect for the law here in all of this. with affidavits being added to and all that. It's kind of really wrong. And we want to clean up the media. Well, come on. It's really bad. And I've been threatened with violence. It's not good. Now I'm a big girl. I grew up with that. As I said, my brother threatened me with violence constantly and punched me and did all sorts. And so I'm used to men like that and I just roll with it. But, I've been through quite a lot. And there's a part of me that's scared. And I'm scared of Evan Harris. I am. And I tell you, Evan, if you're going to come round and do anything to me, it will ping back. Do you understand? I see you. Don't. That's all I'm saying. Really, don't. It won't be the pushover you're imagining. Right, anyway, so this Gavin Burrows apparently has had his affidavits interfered with, and I do believe there should be a trial. Okay, my son is complaining about me doing this. I do believe there should be a trial, and it all should be washed out properly in a trial. I do believe that I will probably be threatened in some kind of way physically to not say this or not say that. So I'm not in a great position. I don't feel good about it. I haven't got police protection because it's a civil case. But this is the pressure I've been living under and have been living under. And it's okay. I pray around it. But the thing Gavin Burrows is saying, it doesn't look great. I mean, did it not happen? And somehow he said that, but I don't know how can he say one thing to one people and then another to another? That doesn't kind of gel. I do feel sorry for Graham Johnson because I believe he had a lot of pressure put on him to bear by his superiors to get this. And he is working class and he's never mixed with the likes of, celebrities. And suddenly he's mixing with celebrities. Of course he's going to want to do anything to get in with the in crowd. Of course. And I think the in crowd know that. So I think he's probably a victim of all this too. And yeah, I do. And he's been, quite brutal to me. He's not cared that I've suffered. He's not cared what he will put me through in the future. He's not cared that I helped him. And yet he said that about me on his blog about Sienna Miller. And I let Jim Watson say it and let the BBC say it. And yet he set me up as well, threw me to the BBC. But then maybe he's not guilty of that. Maybe he didn't. He certainly wouldn't have known that about James Newton weirding out in that psychotic way. He couldn't have known that. I don't blame him for that. But I do understand him. I do understand that if you're working class, he didn't work out in the tabloids. He dealt with the tabloids in a strange way. He did that Beast of Bodmin Moor thing. And I talked to my son about that. And it's a really weird thing to, Rebecca Brooks sends you on a mission to go and take a picture of a Beast of Bodmin Moor. He took a picture of a jaguar, Nancy, in the nearby zoo. He went back to Brooksy and Rebecca Brooks and said, here's the beast, I've got a picture. And Steve Grayson was involved as well. And who does that? It's like strange. I don't understand. Did he do it I don't know, he obviously thought he was going to get away with it, but you can't get away with it. When it went out, because it did go out there to the public, and that's destroying a whole newspaper's reputation. Experts started looking at it and saying, but that looks like a really well-fed animal, like this beast. It looks really well-fed. If it was really wandering on Bodmin Moor, it would be skinny. And look, hang on, its coat is really shiny. That looks like it's been given proper oils, and that only would take place if it was in captivity. And then someone else came along and said, that's Nancy from my zoo. So it's like, I don't know, how could he ever have thought that he wouldn't have got found out for it? And that is the only thing. There was another scenario, and I forget. Oh, yes. Again, with the cahoots of the BBC. Strange how he has this really weird relationship as well. He's a strange man. People are saying he's not interesting. I find him utterly fucking fascinating. He was, and there's something about him when you meet him as well that's strange. He will literally ring you and listen in a way. And when we last had dinner, he said, "Oh, I believe in the occult," and I thought, I bet you do. I know you do. And he rang me one time when I was talking to someone who's really powerful in that world, and they said he's not some normal guy. It was Max Spears. Okay, I was talking to Max on Skype. Graham Johnson rang me. I put him on loudspeaker, not to be a cunt in any way, just because I didn't want to say to, I've got a call. I said to Max, wait. And so I put it on loudspeaker so Max could hear I was talking to someone, so it didn't sound rude. Anyway, Graham Johnson was speaking to me. We did a yada yada and then hung up, and then Max went, who is that, Christine? I said, it's a journalist, ex-News of the World. He goes, he's not a normal person. You know that, right? I said, what do you mean? He said the way he listens to you, he's trying to read you. So he's got some kind of occultic kind of. Max said he was trying to listen to me when I wasn't speaking. He said, can't you tell? And I hadn't even been aware. He said he will, when you stop speaking and go quiet, he's trying to read you. He actually said he wasn't human. I don't know, I'll take that picture. So, but anyway, this is Max Spears. Anyway, so going back to the point of my, So he had this alliance with the BBC, even back many, many years ago. So he was a minion of the BBC. He was working for Panorama, going up north to Liverpool. The BBC wanted young guns in Liverpool. Apparently there was kiddies running around with machine guns. Now, Graham couldn't find any. Again, Beast of Bodmin Moor territory. Couldn't find any, and he thought, I know, I'll just pay a kid. Here's a gun, hold it. Now, when it came out on the BBC, Young Guns, it's still on YouTube. When it came out, the kid, one of them, Stephen Houghton, his father recognized his anorak, had a certain stain, certain badge. That's my fucking son holding that gun. He had a covering over his head. So he rang the police. Now, instead of the police, what kind of retarded police must have been involved? Anyway, the police then decided they would nick Houghton, this kid. He was 14. He said, hang on, I got 50 quid to hold this. They were like, no, you didn't. This is hard for me to tell this story, actually. Anyway, I'll just cut that short. It's hard for me to talk about this kid, this victim, this kid, this working class kid. You see the way this kid is treated by the BBC. Do you understand? Why are you watching the BBC when this is what they do? This is what they do to your kid if he was running around the street. Yeah? This is what they've done. So why they didn't care about Jimmy Savile abusing kids? Well, they didn't see them as human. If he wants to do that, let him. You see the higher echelons. Even the documentary by Netflix recently, there was, the judge that knew about it, and he was pretty much, he's a pedophile. Like, okay, he likes eating oranges. Why? Because it's not their bloodline. They don't care that after sexual abuse they'll be ruined for the rest of their life. And sexual abuse in childhood fucks you for your whole existence. As I say, I've never made love. I've never built a house. Grown with that. So I'm in a rented hovel. I'm in a rented hovel purely because of my sexuality. It's not there. Purely because of that. If I'd had it, I'd want to burrow down with a mate. we'd build a house together. Do you see how it works? So they've ruined the lives of the BBC. Don't care. They don't care about Stephen Houghton. They don't care. People are upset about, oh, you didn't tell us properly about the vaccines and COVID. Well, of course they didn't. They didn't care. In fact, they have a totally different agenda. And the totally different agenda is you will go away. So that's the agenda. And Graham Johnson is like a bishop on the chessboard of the Illuminati. He is. There's a program, and there was a program on BBC, and it was either called The Lambs or Lamb, and it was a drama. Was it BBC? Maybe Netflix. And it was a drama about girls that lived in the woods. No, they were nuns, but they'd been left somewhere, and a man wandered into their little kind of place, and he was like a lamb, and the Vatican was involved in it as well. If I find out the name, I'll put it below. It was really good, and they do drama very well, I have to say, BBC. Anyway, so they would, wouldn't they, though? Anyway, so this priest wandered into the nunnery. This nunnery is in the middle of woods, and they kind of, I don't know, I think they set about abusing him or something. That's why it was called something to do with the lamb. Anyway, the Vatican got involved, and they were going to shut down this nunnery. It was all set back in time. Or was it set back in time? Maybe it wasn't. And there was a bishop, I think, or maybe a priest that worked for the Vatican, and he went around fixing everything. And he really reminded me so much of Graham Johnson's character and who he actually really is in the scheme of things. It's not just some person that happens to have Hugh Grant take him under his wing and used to be an ex-phonak and you're working class. It doesn't happen. That's just a little mask he wears. He's something else. And he also has done the bidding with the BBC and still does the bidding with the BBC. He was dishing up this Gavin Burrows character with the BBC. And I think in some kind of way, I almost spoiled the Graham Johnson camp because I was such an easy pushover. And I think they thought Gavin Burrows, it's almost like they think, oh, if you're a private investigator, you're this type of person. But they don't even know. They don't. It's like there's something missing there that they can't really work out, that there's more different kinds of private eyes than there are pebbles on a beach. So they thought this Gavin guy would be a pushover, but he hasn't. I mean, he's literally fighting them. So I have to look at it, and I spoke to James Hanning about it, and he's like, well, you know, he must have lied, or he's lying now to the Mail. I mean, so anyway, whatever has gone on, I'm only speaking from my eye point view. But anyway, Johnson does remind me of this bishop-type character who was literally in the employ of the Vatican in quite a high way, and he was willing to do anything because he was in high employ. His employees were like high, and he's like fairly low, but was, you see, it's a foot soldier, and because he's never had any power before, and he's screwed up, you know, the beast above him more. He's got a certain mentality to him. The young guns with the BBC, they've seen something in him, and the hires have decided to use it. Now, this ability that he's got, the different abilities that he's got, I don't know how they figure in that, but he reminds me of a bishop. Someone that gives an appearance of someone quite low, but actually they're higher. And actually they're willing to do anything for the higher, the hive. They're willing to fly back to the hive and do a lot for them, to sting whoever the fuck the hive wants them to sting. And they are passionate. He's totally devoted to what he's about. Now, he would have me say, he would tell me over dinner that it is the good side, fight the good fight. I sucked that up because I sensed he was passionate. I don't think money. He's paid £5 grand a month to do all this, but I don't think that means much to him. I don't. I don't think his home life means jack shit to him either. No, I don't mean he doesn't love his children. I mean his, love relationships. I don't think they touch the edges. I think he's totally devoted to what it is he serves. I actually don't even really think he's aware, maybe on a spiritual level. But what that is, I don't know, but it's certainly linked with the BBC, linked with the Lovies. But I think it comes from a higher level. I do. It's not about Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant's just an actor. At the end of the day, I know the press said recently, but again, that is to fool the public. Oh, Hugh Grant. He's so good looking. He's after the Daily Mail. Which side are you on, everyone? Good versus evil. Which side? I know. I fancy Hugh Grant. I'll be on his side. Rah, rah, rah. Twitter is set alight, and it's just a game. It's so, oh God, are people not even woken up to that yet? But it's out there. But what is above that, what is above them, is deeper, stronger, more powerful. It's far, far, far more powerful. And you, the lower person, they're meaningless to them. You're not part of the hive. You're not part of their hive. You'll be stung if you get out of line. Don't bother taking sides. Don't be stupid. Use that energy, use that time, and go and pray. Go and connect to your maker, because when the shit hits the fan and you're starving in the street and we're being nuked everywhere, and everyone who's part of the hive will be in a bunker underground, and your children will be, blown up, and it will come here. So, oh, it's over there. Ukraine's not even that far away. It's over there. Won't come here. No. When it comes down, all you'll have is your relationship with your maker. And you will be aware that your body isn't really going to help you. In times of war, your body will let you down. Your flesh, your bones, not going to help you. Not going to. And you're probably going to leave it and pop out of it. And when you pop out of it, do you know that world? Do you know the world you're going to pop into? Now, I've constantly been jizzed on by people that, supernatural's not real. And, even that interview I did with Nikki, is it Nikki Clark on the BBC that's online, about Ian Brady? I was pointing out the spiritual. I don't like Ian Brady, but I was pointing out. Now, Ian Brady wanted to claim those crimes. Ooh, I've done something so important. He was such a little person. It's the darkness comes through. It needs to feed. It really is a different species, and on some extent, it wants us as food, and it wants the children as food. That's what happened there. Explain that to the BBC, and they don't want to hear that. They don't want you to see behind the curtain. And as well as that, they sound really good, these people, when they say there's nothing outside the 3D. Oh, you don't believe in woo-woo, do you? I did an interview with, is it Helen? Is she called Helen Hunt? Because that's quite a famous name. But she did a Channel 4, and again, mainstream media. It's a thing on Brady, and I gave her an interview. I was talking about spirit. She said, don't go all woo-woo on me. I got embarrassed. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds strong. You're not going to go flaky on me, are you? Sorry, Brit strong person that is really anchored in the physical. Yeah, I'll try not to be flaky. And these people have had relatives die. I mean, do they think they don't exist anymore? And you ask them that, where do you think your dead mother's gone? I can be quite rude about it. I don't mean to be, but it angers me a little bit. And they're like, they're just dead, they're gone. And I feel so profoundly sorry for that. I can speak to the dead. I can speak to Greg Miskiw and speak to Hugh Burnett and speak to whoever the fuck I want to speak to. It's just a different realm. Nobody dies. You don't die. We're just in the physical. Can't you feel it? We're in these rabbit bodies. They're so low. We shouldn't even be there. We should have evolved by now to be in the astral. The astral's far better. You literally can imagine a castle. If you want to live in a castle, you just think it. It manifests and you go into it. You want to have a lover? Think it. Manifests. It's there. It's not like this level. It's dense. It's horrible. It's been taken over by something. So some of us don't get to even live. We don't have lives. Look up, see a grey, miserable sky, you get drowned by water. Is that a life? You're living like an animal. Upgrade, please. So this is what we have to tolerate by the elite. They really grab the higher to themselves. And what's going to happen? We are going to suffer in this war. It's only going to escalate horrifically. Something bad will take over. That COVID was just a start. The vaccine's just the start of it. So then them warming up and feeling us, getting the pulse. And then it's going to be something really quite nasty. I do believe it's going to be a communist takeover of all of Europe and America. And then it will be all of us herded into places where we will literally work. They don't want the certain bloodlines to have a life, to experience joy, but to be literally more like battery animals. That's down the line. So, and some people will die in this. So what you have to do is forge a relationship with spirit. If you haven't got it, try. Because when you come out of your body, it's not just going to be blackness. You're not going to not feel anymore. You will be there. You will be there. You come out of your body in your sleep. Where you go, you don't remember it though because of how it's been set up here. Some people have continued consciousness. They put their head down on the pillow, they come out their body and they have another life. I don't enjoy that. I can do that. Not at will. But I don't enjoy it. I like to sometimes be blotted out. But I certainly do like interacting on the astral. These people that control us here, they do it all the time. So that's why they've taken over not only this level, but also going up higher, sadly. But when you come out of your body, you will be aware. When you die, you will be aware. You'll come out, you'll be aware. You need to have had a relationship with that realm or you will just be terrified. You will be terrified. And that's just silly. So, get yourself a candle. Get yourself whatever you want, a little crucifix, and go to it daily and pray. And just connect with something that isn't physical. Because when it's going off around you, that'll be all you'll have. And if you've been sitting there every day in front of whatever you've been in front of, spiritual, and connecting with it, that will build up over time. It's like a neighbour. You ignore that neighbour. When you have an argument with the neighbour, it will probably come off on top. But if you've interacted with that neighbour, if you're, hello, how's it going with you? And you've interacted with them, if things go on top, say that happened in my case, my neighbour was, she had an alarm that was going off all through the night. She still reacted not great, actually. But because I've been talking to her about her life, she found it. God knows how she couldn't hear it in the first place, but never mind. Found it and turned it off. But if I had ignored her being a bit, I wouldn't have been able to have that interaction. I'd have still been tolerating it, and it was pretty bad. It was going off all through the night, every night of the week. So God is the same, although God isn't cuntish. You will just feel afraid. So it's best to interact. That way, if it comes on top, you have that connection. There's no access to banks or money or food. You have that connection. You haven't lent on money or food or your big house. You've lent on spirit, and you've got that connection to spirit. If it all comes on top, and that's all taken away from you and we're all herded somewhere, then you'll need it. You'll think, hang on, I spent an hour each day talking to you, Spirit. Where are you? Where are you right now? I need you. It will come. It will come. And it will give you strength. It will give you companionship. And it will give you a lot. It's a lot more powerful than money or anything, bricks and mortar. It will give you special powers. It will give you a lot. And the elite have tried to make us say, oh, it's demonic. Oh, no, it's not. It's God. It's God's there for you. Don't have to turn away from anything supernatural because of what they've told you. Of course they've told you that. Of course they've told you, don't bother. Don't bother there. That's for us. You just watch your telly, what we're telling you to think, and make your votes. Do you want Hugh Grant? Are you on his side, the nice-looking actor, or are you on the side of the Daily Mail? Perhaps you're right wing. Oh, that'll make you a Nazi then if you're going to support the Daily Mail. It's just a load of crud. Go and pray. Make a feather bed for yourself. Build up treasures for yourself in heaven. Don't build up treasures for yourself here. It's meaningless. They've got hold of this realm. It doesn't mean anything for you. You're not part of it. You're not part of them. They don't like you. They hate you. They'd kill you. They'd kill your children. They'd send your children to prison. Stephen Newton. Do you understand? Please wake up to that. Pray. Connect. Because it's like putting money in a little bank account, yeah? When you pray, you're adding up a little storage of love, of golden liquid. You're giving to Spirit. Then when it comes on top, or when you find yourself leaving your body, and you're like, oh, I'm still conscious. I thought I was going to be snuffed out, and yeah, I'm here. Oh, where do I go? Well, you won't know where to go, or anything. You won't know where to go. You just want to incarnate straight away. You'll grab anything, even if it's a horrific life. You'll be, oh, no, help me, help me. Let me cling to bricks and mortar and my bank account. Well, it doesn't wash. You just get sucked down, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, God knows what will happen. God knows what they're going to do next. They have control in occultic ways. So it also keeps you safe to pray and connect. And when you come out of your body, you will know where to go, because you'll build up this store account, this bank account of, I can draw on that now. So you go and draw on it. And drawing it is, what do I do next? Where do I go? What do I do? And Spirit, well, that's that person there has been talking to us. We'll help them. And you'll get help and you'll get aid. Build up for yourself treasures in heaven. That's what it means. Heaven. It's not all that. It means when you come out your body, basically. Build up for yourself treasures in heaven, not on earth, where thieves break in and where Rishi Sunak leads us into war. Surprised we haven't been nuked before now, but I do believe when I speak to my spirit guides, they're telling me that the first nuke will go off in Ukraine, and that will escalate things to a further point, but that that will be a false flag. It won't be Russia. That is what my guides are telling me. I've also seen the rise of China, and that's all across everywhere. And things are already in place for the rise of China and the rise of communism. Again, it's just a different thing, but it's still the same control mechanisms. But back in the day, we didn't know that we were being controlled, you see. So now the veil is lifting to this control. In fact, we're in a prison. It's going to be more prison-like, because it has to be, because we're awakening. We're having eyes. Oh, we're in a prison. The animals are waking up. We're in a prison. So what the controllers will do, they'll be like, yeah, you are. Yeah, sorry about that. So it's going to become more and more visible, but it won't be your freedom that you will start to see. You won't be like, oh, I'm becoming more and more awake, it's so beautiful. It will be, I'm becoming more and more awake. It's ugly. I'm in a prison. And the controllers know this. And so it's going to be manifesting. It's going to be showing. It's showing its face. So what you will see is prison bars. And you might think, well, things have really changed now. We're in prison. The Chinese have taken over. We're in a communist hellhole. Well, you've always been in a prison. Just haven't seen it. Just because you've got a big TV screen and a nice bit of carpet doesn't mean you're free. And a lot of people have known that for a long, long time, but the masses haven't. But they will have to wake up and see it because the ascension, the energy's changing, and the curtain has been. We can't have the delusion anymore. That big TV screen, big car, and nice bit of carpet isn't going to wash anymore because it's an illusion. And because the ascension, the illusions are being stripped away. And so you will see, hang on, I'm not free. And they'll be like, no, bitches, you're not free. Here's the prison bars. See them now. We don't care. So that's what's going to be the next step. But it will be called, oh my God, the Chinese have taken us over. Well, it won't be. It'll just be the same. It's the same. The same. It's not really to do with races. It's to do with the Illuminati, those that know the occult, those that run this place while you've been sleeping. They've taken charge in an occultic way. So it goes, there's a matrix wrapped around the planet and it's gone up to the higher levels towards heaven. It's an attack on God itself. This is a war between God and Satan. And sadly, humanity is mostly taken over to Satan. I'll end now because I can feel my son getting pissed off with me.